Secondary transactions and cryptocurrency tokens are not regarded to be securities, according to the precedent set by the United States Court. Both the regulatory action and the CC allegations that were brought against Binance have been dismissed by the United States District Court. A number of the claims that security is made against Binance have been dismissed by the court's ruling, which also criticizes the Secretary of State's approach regarding the regulation of cryptocurrencies. Significant charges that were brought forth by the Securities and Exchange Commission against Binance have been dismissed by the United States District Court for the District of Columbia. This judgment has a substantial impact on the way the Securities and Exchange Commission governs the cryptocurrency business. The court rejected the premise that certain transactions on the secondary market and cryptocurrency tokens or securities are influenced by this verdict. In the current legal conflict with the Securities and Exchange Commission, this action is taken to bolster the position of the Securities and Exchange Commission. The notification of further authority for the cottage has been submitted by Ripple Labs. A response to the action taken by the Securities and Exchange Commission C for remedies and a final judgment that was filed with the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York was submitted in this document. Ripple is the company that uses the term Binance rule. In the matter of the Securities and Exchange Commission versus Lies Holdings Limited, which is currently being referred to as case number 23, SEVA 1599 ABGZM, the United States District Court for the District of Columbia has just issued decision. A ruling was issued by Binance on the 28th of June 2024, which partially accepted the reasoning and partially denied it. In terms of defense, he is the most important component. The court came to the conclusion that the Securities and Exchange Commission CC had not produced adequate evidence to indicate that securities trades included secondary market deals on cryptocurrency exchanges that utilized BMD tokens. This conclusion was reached due to the fact that the decision's analytical similarities to the SEC's continuing legal issues were present. In response to charges made by the Securities and Exchange Commission SC that Binance had sold securities that were not registered with the SEC, this was done. For further details, continue reading. It is a precedent that Ripple views to be of great significance. An individual by the name of John Detton, who is a supporter of Ripple, has declared that the chairman of the SEC is harmful to small investors. The major observation that was made by the Binance court was that intangible digital assets do not neatly fit under the parameters that were outlined in the paltry 7 pages that are used to make a decision. Ripple's legal team has brought this up in their extensive reference to the Binance ruling, which is something that they had previously mentioned. On the subject of the regulation of digital financial instruments, this quotation highlights a common misunderstanding that it is difficult to adapt traditional securities law to current digital assets. This is a topic that deals with the regulation of digital financial instruments. Additionally, the court's criticism of the SEC's fragmented litigation approach was brought to light. The filing states that it is likely not an effective method to continue and that it risks inconsistent outcomes that may leave the relevant parties in their perspective. Consumers without clear providing direction about the decision made by the government to monitor the billion-dollar doll business via litigation in each instance. In addition, the court's criticism was highlighted. Each penny, in turn, Ripple presents the case for judicial clarity on the legality of XRP sales and the cost, which was mentioned as an important outcome of the court's previous summary order. Ripple's argument is based on the fact that the prior ruling was issued. The SEC's regulatory strategy within the Bitcoin industry has been subjected to widespread criticism, and this is a sign of that criticism. This is indicative of a larger criticism of the stance taken by the SEC, as it has been affirmed by court after court. According to the brief, this remark lends weight to Ripple's contention that the most important component of the court's decision to issue a summary judgment was to provide clarification on the legality of the various forms of sales of XRP. According to Ripple, the company notes that regulatory clarity prior to the court's ruling strengthened its stance against large penalties. This highlights the significance of such certainty for both the company's operations and the Bitcoin industry as a whole. Additionally, the material delves into the categorization of the claimed infractions, committed making the case that any proposed remedies shouldn't be as harsh because the SEC was unable to prove Ripple's recklessness. The counsel for the business indicated that Ripple's stance that the court's finding of a strict liability violation on some of Ripple's transactions, although a far smaller number of sales than the SEC asserted were violations, does not represent the company's position. The SEC's regulatory strategy within the Bitcoin industry has been subjected to widespread criticism, and this is a sign of that criticism. This is indicative of a larger criticism of the stance taken by the SEC, as it has been affirmed by court after court. regarding Ripple's argument that the most significant aspect of the court's summary judgment decision was providing clarity on the legality of the various types of sales of XRP. The brief stated that this observation provides support for Ripple's argument. Ripple emphasizes that regulatory clarity prior to the court's verdict bolstered it. The company's stance against the imposition of severe penalties highlights the significance of such certainty for the company's operations as well as for the Bitcoin sector as a whole. Additionally, the material delves into the categorization of the claimed infractions. Ripple committed making the case that any proposed remedy shouldn't be as harsh because the SEC was unable to prove Ripple's recklessness. The counsel for the business indicated that Ripple's stance that the court's finding of a strict liability violation on some of Ripple's transactions, although a far smaller number of sales than the SEC asserted were violations, does not represent the company's position. See, Plimpton LP is taking action based on reckless disdain for the law that occurred as a result of the lack of regulatory clarity that existed before to it. This lack of clarity led to the destruction of Glockworld, the Kellogg Hansen employee Michael K., and the data that was provided by Todd Fiegel Frederick Pellis counsel for Ripple. ABBs has not only submitted this further notice, but they have also made an effort to refute the most recent motions that have been presented by the United States of America. The declaration that they made gives credibility to the company's more general comments on the applicability of securities laws to Bitcoin transactions, which is a topic that is the subject of major controversy in the legal community, academic, and regulatory discourse, respectively. Judge Amy Berman Jackson came to the conclusion that the justifications presented by the CKE regarding the investment contract that supports the trading of tokens in secondary markets were insufficient. This was due to the fact that digital assets continue to defy conventional frameworks. As a consequence of the fact that the BUSD is fat back and has a constant value, the BUS stablecoin contract was wrongly classified as an investment contract, and there was no way to provide evidence that such a contract existed. This was due to the fact that the BUSD has a constant value. This lends credence to the conclusion that was reached in the ruling. After a thorough investigation, the court came to the conclusion that it cannot serve as a replacement for security and that it does not offer any expectations for investment. The findings of previous research that a few of us have conducted indicate that this is congruent with what we have found. The court upheld the legitimacy of other stablecoins, despite the fact that regulators have not deemed analogous stablecoins to be securities. This is despite the fact that they have disputed some of the allegations that have been made by the Securities and Exchange Commission. The Department of Finance is required to continue to defend itself against the remaining charges by demonstrating that certain transactions do not fit the criteria for being classed as securities transactions. This is necessary in order to contribute to the maintenance of a judicial procedure that is fair and impartial at this early stage. As a result of this action, the Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) has reached a key turning point in its involvement with the cryptocurrency business. Furthermore, this action has the potential to have an impact on the legislative framework that will be enacted in the near future. The decision is a part of a larger movement that aims to provide uniformity and clarity in the regulation of cryptocurrencies, as well as laws that stimulate innovation and ensure market integrity. This movement is included in the judgment. There have been a number of recent developments in the legal dispute that Ripple is now engaged in with the United States Securities and Exchange Commission. The most recent of these developments is that the corporation has issued a notice of additional authority in response to a verdict that pertains to the cryptocurrency exchange Binance. This is the most latest of these developments. The explanations that were offered by the regulator, which said that sales of Binance's coin on the secondary market did not count as securities transactions, were rejected by Judge Amy Jackson the week before last. It would appear that Ripple has the intention of employing this verdict to their benefit. Ripple's argument